Oh, it's always something. Always something. So, of course, I am late for this Thursday edition of the Daily Dope. But hey, at least I've got to say, the Daily Dope is in the air. Hello, gang. Welcome back. I am Jeff McAleer, the Grand Poobah of the GamingGang.com and the host of the fairly new daily show, the Daily Dope. And I do apologize. Another sound issue thing, and it's been driving me nuts. Trying to figure out why some days I boot up the desktop, set everything up, sound works fine. Other times I boot it up and nothing. And I mess around and mess around and mess around and still can't find what the issue is. So today, got everything all set up, come downstairs here to the duct tape studio ahead of time, get everything loaded up, and of course, once again, no sound. But I think I have finally figured out what the issue is, but it wasn't something that was going to take a short period of time. So I do apologize. I am a bit late getting started today. Anyway, you may have seen on Twitter that I've got 2 reviews today, which are going to be completely discombobulated because one of the things I was doing coming downstairs early was to make sure that I had all my bullet points and thoughts about these 2 reviews all lined up. And of course, didn't get that done. But hey, you know, it's live, man. It's all live, folks. So all the screw-ups are right there for everybody to see. Hopefully I never have one of these big epic like Twitch fails or live streaming fails make the rounds in somebody's video. Anyway, I have a review of Xanathar's Guide to Everything today. And this had just recently come out from our friends over at Wizards of the Coast. I did a kind of a page through, not an unboxing because it doesn't come really in a box, but I did do a page through last week, and I'm going to talk about that a little more in depth. It's pretty cool. It may not necessarily be for everyone. And then I'm going to review Starfinder. Yes, Starfinder from the fine folks over at Paizo Publishing. And I know this came out at Gen Con, and I'll have a little Gen Con story about Starfinder for you when I get into the review. But very impressive. It is very impressive. And we will actually take a kind of a detailed look through as far as the game itself. I want to keep the reviews to about 15-20 minutes or so. I don't want to go into a real big deep dive into both of these books, but I will give you my overall thoughts. So anyway, hopefully I've ironed out all the issues for today. Please. Yesterday wasn't too bad. It came off pretty much without a hitch, except for a problem with the damned teleprompter. I hate teleprompters. Anyway. So shall we move on to the news? Because Asmodee Digital has been very, very busy lately. Yes, they have. And they have a new update to a game called Abalone, and it's a digital game. So they announced the launch of a brand new update to Abalone. I think it's always pronounced Abalone. Anyway, it's an abstract 2-player marble game loosely inspired by sumo wrestling. In Abalone, players are challenged. I keep stopping because I'm thinking, am I pronouncing that right? Is it abalone or abalone? Isn't there a shellfish or something called an abalone? Anyway, in the game, players are challenged to push 6 of their opponent's 14 marbles off the edge of the board. Only a longer line of marbles can push a shorter one, and with 6 sides flanking each game piece, players will have to toe the delicate line between defensive and offensive play to come out on top. The new version of Abalone, or Abalone, is available now on iOS, Android, and Steam for Windows PC. Players seeking a challenge can face off against other masters in online multiplayer, and those who prefer to maintain the more tactile, personal feel of face-to-face gaming. The game also provides a local pass and play player mode. Main features to this new update to Abalone: it features solo play, 3 levels of difficulty against AI, easy, medium, and hard, a solo campaign with unique challenges, plus the game mode allows you to make up your own game and your own rules and change up the marbles. I always think that's kind of cool if an app game is going to allow you to kind of create your own rules. So it does have multiplayer, pass and play mode, and an online mode. It is available in English, which I treat that language as if it's a second language, French, German, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and Dutch. You can find the new Abalone today on the App Store for $2.99, Google Play for $2.99, and Steam for $4.99. So why don't we take a peek? Looks kind of neat. I have to be honest, I'm not always necessarily a huge fan of abstract games. I'm a thematic game player. I like a lot of theme and epic stories and things like that. But I do like some abstract stuff, like Carcassonne. I did the how to play on that test stream for Carcassonne. That's a pretty abstract game. And I really dig that. I like that a lot. I'll have to, I might check this out. I know I was offered a review code to give it a try. I would prefer to check it out on possibly iOS. See how that's looking. All right, in my next piece, there is a new game from a French company that it's on Kickstarter, and it looks pretty funny. And the reason why it's funny is you're actually being tasked by a queen to kill unicorns. Yes, that's right, to kill unicorns. And this is a new Kickstarter from a company called Morning, which I am not familiar with. But here's the dope from Morning. Unicorns are elegant and majestic creatures. That's just what you think anyway. But in fact, they are silly and reproducing too quickly. Kill the Unicorns is a blind bidding and collection card game. You play as one of the Queendom's unique characters. Now, keep in mind, I said Queendom, not Kingdom. Catch as many unicorns as you can, ideally without accidentally capturing a smelly unicorn or a piggycorn. A long time ago, far, far away... Hey, wait a second, isn't that Star Wars? Huh, okay. A queendom was overrun with thousands of pesky unicorns, relieving themselves on private property, eating endangered plant life, and subsequently farting a lot. As unicorn gas is toxic, air pollution in the queendom drastically increased, seriously impacting the local environment. This contamination caused microclimates around the queendom. It started raining sugar and candy, making everything sticky. The good old queen knew that unicorns had to be dealt with. Too kind to take action herself, she left the matter with her spoiled and selfish daughter, the princess. Eager to show citizens that their princess was able to take action, she and her team of misfits would catch and kill all the unicorns. She declared that 4 days each year would be dedicated to hunting unicorns, and everyone was invited. This was great news for the gnomes, who ran an illegal unicorn trade, a global black market for unicorn parts. This annual hunt meant they didn't have to waste time catching the beasts themselves, a difficult thing to do, and they could instead buy them cheaply from the citizens. Let's learn a little bit more about Kill the Unicorns from the Kickstarter video.
Okay, fourth round. Last day of unicorn hunting season.
Now it's time to distinguish the amateurs from the true unicorn killers.
Does everyone have their secret plan?
Let's see what we've got.
2 big, beautiful 4-point unicorns, but they are obviously booby-trapped. So we're interested in this 1-point unicorn, and this is just a pig with a horn tied to its head. It's worth zip. I'm not hunting.
I want it. 2 cards.
You sure?
Because I believe it is my duty as a knight to defend this queendom from all these repugnant unicorns.
Oh, me too then. I, the agile and noble hunter, will use my superpowers to see what you've played.
Oh.
Yeah, me too. Sorry, guys.
Wait!
I will use my strength.
As a knight and trade cards. Oh, yes, my cute little piggy corn.
I'm the one who set the trap on that piggy corn.
A unicorn fart. Should have guessed.
It's a good move, I hate you.
Thank you. So, next unicorn.
Set your traps, guess your opponent's plan, use your special powers, buy fairy dust on the black market from a gnome you don't even know, and collect different colored unicorns. Bluff, guessing, double bluff, urine. Do you have what it takes to hunt the most noble and tenacious game? Kill the unicorns.
No unicorns were harmed in the making of this game. Unicorns don't exist. They're only playing cards. In a game. You got it, right?
I had to laugh because you see the players are all sitting around drinking. They're all drinking wine. And what's up with that one guy? Why is he sitting there and he's is he hallucinating hearing these voices while he plays? Is this guy psychotic? What's going on? Anyway, I do have to say the artwork looks kind of funny. And obviously this is probably not a game for little kids. But Kill the Unicorns is currently up for funding on Kickstarter. The project has already hit, ready for this, $123,000 in crowdfunding as of right now, and it did have a $10,000 goal. You can get in on the fun and snag a copy of the game plus any stretch goals, as well as an exclusive Kickstarter character at the $20 pledge level. I do want to point out that I do have a bit more Kickstarter-ish news than usual. It's just kind of the way the news was playing out recently. I'm sure there's plenty of things that fly under my radar, but it just seemed like a lot of stuff today that was kind of catching my eye was regarding Kickstarters. And folks who follow thegaminggang.com know that it's not as if I put out a lot of Kickstarter info. I'm not one of these people who likes to inundate people with just every Kickstarter that comes their way, so then they have no idea what could be good, what could be chafe, I guess we would say. But anyway, I do want to mention there's a miniatures game that its Kickstarter finished up, and it did fly under my radar until after it had completed. But there's actually still time to jump on board and actually be part of the like an extra backer that you'll see, pledge level manager, duh, like a late pledge manager. Man, it's like, what in the world is going on? See, I'm discombobulated from this audio thing. Anyway, the game is from Panda Cult Games, another company I am not familiar with. And it's called Wander, the Cult of Barnacle Bay. And what really piqued my interest about this title is that it happens to be a family-friendly miniatures game. And you can't say that about a ton of miniatures games out there because mainly they're all shooting for that whole kind of grim, dark setting. Excuse me. Anyway, here is the dope from Panda Cult. Wander, the Cult of Barnacle... I need to take a sip here. Hold on. It's all live. It's live. Unedited. Anyway, here is the dope from Panda Cult. Wander, the Cult of Barnacle Bay is the first game in the Wander series. A fully cooperative, campaign-driven miniatures board game, Wander, the Cult of Barnacle Bay tells the story of 5 heroes from the Wanderers Guild and their struggle to free the small fishing town of Barnacle Bay from the slimy claws of Elder Bane. Driven mad by power and physically twisted from dark magic, Elder Bane has created a cult of mutated townsfolk that only desire to spread their message of madness to the rest of the world, bending it to their whim along the way. Geez, this sounds a little dark for small kids. Anyway, in Wander, the Cult of Barnacle Bay, players will select one of 5 unique heroes, outfit their hero with starting gear, represented by mini cards on a player dashboard, and join their friends to take back Barnacle Bay. Defeating foes and surviving random encounters earns players experience points and loot. Yes, loot. Loot, like weapons and armor, is a persistent upgrade, staying with the heroes as they continue on their adventure. Experience points are used to level up heroes during their current adventure in the campaign. A dual-facing upgrade tree allows players to continually try new combinations of skills each adventure to determine what fits their playstyle or current set of foes best. Using a modular board, players assemble maps as indicated in the campaign book, then use action points to move or attack with their hero. All enemies in the game are controlled by a simple line-of-sight AI and automatically hit the player's heroes once they're able to. This means there's no player rolling for success for enemies' attacks. Heroes will, however, be able to roll for defense in an effort to prevent incoming wounds. One set of custom dice determines a hero's success for both defending and attacking. Random encounter cards, which are revealed when players entered an unexplored darkness space, also promise that no campaign adventure will ever be the same. As I mentioned, this was a Kickstarter that kind of flew under my radar, but I do want to show you the Kickstarter video for it because, as I mentioned, this is a miniatures game, but it's supposed to be for the whole family. And at the end, after the video, I'm going to tell you what the age range is, and I was like, whoa, really? Sweet. Anyway, I do have a video for Wander, so let's take a
Barnacle Bay was once a peaceful fishing village, until the evil cult leader, Elder Bane, took over the town with his followers of the deep. Elder Bane has used his dark magic to corrupt the inhabitants of the village. The peaceful villagers are now crab-armed, crazed otter fishermen, tentacle bunny zealots, fish bat casters, and worst of all, berserking bear sharks. The Wanderers Guild, a guild of adventurers tasked to protect the realm, has sent their 5 bravest heroes. Roland, the Red Panda Warrior. Kira, the Squirrel Thief. Tank, the Turtle Guardian. Finn, the Wolf Ranger. And Ibexus, the Goat Wizard. It is now up to these heroes to defeat Elder Bane and save Barnacle Bay. Wonder, the Cult of Barnacle Bay is a family-friendly, cooperative dungeon crawl miniatures board game for 1 to 5 players. Players will have to work together to defeat the AI of the game by playing as heroes from the Wanderers Guild. Each hero has a list of unique abilities to choose from that help define their role within the party, and allows a different experience depending upon abilities chosen. Once players have chosen their heroes and starting abilities, the campaign of Barnacle Bay begins. Wonder, the Cult of Barnacle Bay features a unique initiative system that randomizes the turn order of the heroes and enemies, while also granting special bonuses, making each encounter a different experience. The Wanderers will need to take on enemies and explore darkness tiles representing Elder Bane's dark magic shrouding the city. Darkness tiles may earn a hero sweet treasure, or they may trigger a special event. The heroes will need to fight the foes of Barnacle Bay above and below ground using the game's unique multi-leveled tile flip mechanic. Defeating enemies will grant heroes experience that will earn them new, unique abilities. But be careful, because the more experience the heroes gain, the more enemies will be summoned. If heroes get too carried away, they will cause enough of a ruckus to attract the dire Megalopotamus. Wonder, the Cult of Barnacle Bay is a campaign-driven fantasy adventure. Which is a choose-your-own-adventure campaign system with 22 scenarios and multiple paths to take. Players will be able to choose how they wish to progress through Barnacle Bay. Heroes will progress through the campaign to finally face off against the evil cult leader, Elder Bane. Will the heroes have what it takes to save the town? Find out in Wonder, the Cult of Barnacle Bay. Wonder, the Cult of Barnacle Bay includes highly detailed miniatures, 9 double-sided large game tiles, 6 double-sided small game tiles, 15 darkness tiles, the initiative board and initiative cards, 50 event cards, 75 unique treasure cards, 5 hero dashboards, 5 hero cards, enemy spawn cards, boss fight AI cards, 1 rule book, 1 campaign book with 22 scenarios, and tokens. Plus, all Kickstarter backers will receive the exclusive Gunbjorn Polar Bear Scald Hero miniature with starting weapons and hero card. Thank you for supporting our Kickstarter. Keep calm and wander on.
As I mentioned, that does look pretty cool. Video was a little bit longer than I usually see, but anyway, as I had mentioned before, there is a late pledge manager as I mentioned before, as I tried to force my brain to figure out what that was. Anyway, so this means you can still get Wanderer, the Cult of Barnacle Bay at a pretty good price. So you can still jump into the festivities and score a copy of the core game, plus all stretch goals. I didn't see a link currently for the Pledge Manager, which is supposed to run through January 15th, I believe. So it's possible it just hasn't popped up yet, but I do know it's coming. So be sure to visit pandacultgames.com to learn more. The game has an estimated delivery date set for September 2018. And gosh, I'm trying to remember, I believe, well, I thought I had saw that the Kickstarter pledge goal, I think it was $60 or $70 on this. And of course, usually with the late pledge or when they open up late pledge managers, things like that, sometimes they boost the price up a little bit. So I do understand it's supposed to be for ages as young as 7. I don't know. From what I was looking at in the information and what we saw in the video, I don't know. Are there a lot of 7-year-olds out there who, 7-year-olds and parents helping them play? Yeah, of course, sure. But I gotta say, Wanderer, the Cult of Barnacle Bay, does look pretty cool. I'll have to reach out to Panda Cult Games because, once again, a company I am not familiar with. But there is a company I am familiar with, and my new friends over at Dynamite Entertainment have a new board game that just hit Kickstarter today, and it's Red Sonja. In conjunction with Linvander Games, the title takes players into the Hyborian Age world of Robert E. Howard's Red Sonja. Thus the name. Dynamite Entertainment is pleased to announce it has once again partnered with Linvander Studios to further continue their expansion into the collectible game space with the new Red Sonja Harkania's Legacy. I don't know if it's collectible game space. I don't know. The new cooperative game is expected to retail for $40, and it's based on one of Dynamite's most iconic characters. Featuring the stunning artwork from Dynamite series, including but not limited to series written by industry icons Gail Simone and Margit Bennett. Cool, Gail Simone. I was hoping that we were going to see some of the Gail Simone storylines in this, as well as many great writers and artists. The game will transport players inside the world of Red Sonja, where they'll join quests and battle the same foes the she-devil with a sword has faced. The Dynamite Red Sonja Harkania's Legacy Kickstarter campaign is live now. And in case you're not familiar with who Red Sonja may happen to be, the she-devil with a sword is a fictional character, a high fantasy sword and sorcery heroine created by Robert E. Howard, and probably made most famous by the Marvel Comics run by Roy Thomas and Barry Windsor Smith. She first appeared in Conan the Barbarian, number 23. Red Sonja has become the archetypical example of the fantasy figure of a fierce and stunningly beautiful female barbarian. The character now appears monthly in her own series, as well as a series of mini-series and one-shots. That's a whole lot. Series of mini-series. All published by Dynamite Entertainment. Red Sonja Harkania's Legacy is a wonderful mix of Dynamite's Red Sonja comics and Linvander Studios and Jasco Games' Legacy line of cooperative games. Together, Harkania's Legacy will be a perfect fit in the Legacy line of games. All Legacy line games are cooperative and are loosely crossed over, allowing players to sometimes play characters from one Legacy game in another. If you're interested in playing some of the most iconic characters from the previous Legacy games in Red Sonja Harkania's Legacy, just select the Hero of Harkania reward level or higher. And interestingly enough, out of my 5 news pieces today, I have videos for 4 of them. Yesterday was pretty light as far as videos went, but today I just have loads of them. So let's take a peek at the Red Sonja Harkania's Legacy Kickstarter.
Welcome to Hircania, land of adventure and home of both heroes and unthinkable horror. Plagued by greed, lust, and hate, Hircania is sinking into the depths of despair. However, there is still a glimmer of hope in the form of great heroes. Barbarians, sorcerers, and rogues stand unified to keep humanity alive. Red Sonja, Hircania's Legacy, is a cooperative adventure game for up to 4 players. You and your allies will choose from many quests before traveling through the realms in search of artifacts, treasures, monsters, and adventure. Travel with caution as each terrain type gets more difficult. Monsters grow stronger and despair spreads quicker as you near the end of your quest. The lands are different each time you play, and your epic tales will be sung by the bards for centuries. These are the days of high adventure!
I do want to mention that Red Sonja Harkania's Legacy is going to be a short Kickstarter. It's only going to run through December 20th. You can score the base game and all unlocked non-add-on stretch goals at the $45 pledge level. The game is, the goal, I want to say, is $15,000. And of right now, keep in mind, this only launched 3, maybe 4 hours ago tops. They're already halfway to their funding goal. So this is obviously going to be something that is going to fund for Dynamite Entertainment. And I should mention, shortly I should be getting a copy of the Reanimator board game from Dynamite, which is their first foray into tabletop gaming. And of course, once I get it, I'm going to be unboxing that live. And you know, if it's a pretty cool game, after I play it, then most definitely I will do some gameplay, review, things like that. Anyway, my final news piece is pretty interesting because it's another game that looks like it's going to be perfect for kids and adults alike. And I apologize, over the years I have not done tons of family games on thegaminggang.com, and one of the reasons is I don't have children. I have a niece and nephew, but now there's 16. Well, my nephew's 16, my niece is 12. So they're getting out of that, like smaller kids games. But when I see something that's kind of aimed at kids, but adults are really going to like it as well, say for an example like Monty Cook Games, No Thank You Evil role-playing game, then I want to take a peek at it and I want to share the news with you. So a mighty cool game which, like I said, looks like it's perfect for kids and adults together to play together is on the horizon from Plaid Hat Games. The game in question? Stuffed Fables. Here is the dope from Plaid Hat. See, I'm smiling because it looks neat. Stuffed Fables is an unusual adventure game in which players take on the roles of brave stuffies seeking to save the child they love from a scheming, evil mastermind. Make daring melee attacks, leap across conveyor belts, or even steer a racing wagon down a peril-filled hill. The game delivers a thrilling narrative driven by player choices. Players explore a world of wonder and danger, unlocking curious discoveries. The chapters of Stuffed Fables explore the many milestones of a child's life, creating a memorable tale ideal for families as well as groups of adults who haven't forgotten their childlike sense of wonder. Like me! Stuffed Fables is the first adventure book game, and I should say adventure book game, a new product line from Plaid Hat Games in which all of the action takes place in the unique storybook, a book that acts as your rules reference, story guide, and game board all in one. Each adventure in the game takes place over several pages of the immersive adventure book. The book opens flat onto the table to reveal a colorful map or other illustration central to playing the game, with choices, story, and special rules on the opposite page. On their turn, a player draws 5 dice from the bag. The colors of the dice drawn determine the types of actions and options available to the player. White dice can restuff stuffies injured in battle. I'll knock the stuffing out of you! That's okay, I've got white dice, I can restuff myself. Red dice perform melee attacks, while green dice perform ranged attacks. Yellow dice search, while blue dice are used for special actions, and purple dice can be used as any color. It's a wild die, I guess. Most dice can always find a strategic use, including moving, using items, or contributing to group tasks. Players can store dice for later, combine dice for stronger actions, or use them one at a time for multiple activations. As turns go by, black dice, ooh, I'm sure that's bad, are also drawn, and after enough appear, minions emerge or attack, and the dice bag is reset. Players can encourage each other by sharing dice or their precious stuffing. In addition to fighting minions, each page of the storybook offers numerous points of interest, charming characters to interact or trade with, as well as many unusual challenges. And each page is but one chapter that folds into a branching, overarching story with a multitude of items and a special discovery deck full of surprises. Stuffed Fables is a game for 2 to 4 players, ages 7 and up, plays in about 60 to 90 minutes, and will carry an MSRP of $59.95. You can pre-order the game right now, and it should be hitting stores December 29th, which unfortunately is after the holidays, so I would have thought maybe they could have gotten it out a little bit earlier, but I bet you Plaid Hat tried to get it out there earlier, but just the way things go. Slow boat from China, baby. Anyway, Stuffed Fables looks pretty cool. I have to admit that looks like a pretty neat game, and I wish I had more images to share. I didn't have a whole lot of images to share about that. So anyway, all right. So that is the news for the day. That is the end of having to mess around with I almost said not a swear word, but trust me, YouTube's already flagging these videos as inappropriate for all advertisers. And it's like, really? Why? What is going on? What's wrong? I do not swear. There's nothing sexual or violent or anything. Just, I don't know. Their algorithms or whatever. Anyway, so I almost said something. I don't want to get flagged by YouTube. It's inappropriate. But anyway, so I've got a couple of reviews to take a peek at. Actually, the funny thing is, Thursdays I'm looking to try to do a bit of a role-playing Thursdays. So the kind of lineup I've got is Fridays. So on tomorrow's show, I'm going to do I'm going to try to do family-friendly games. Now, keep in mind, just because I say that's the topic or whatever of that show doesn't mean that's all I talk about on it. It's just going to be what game genre is going to be features as far as an unboxing or a review or something like that, if I can pull it off. So I think Fridays I'm going to do kind of like a family fun zone, just like over on thegaminggang.com. And I'm going to do an unboxing of Zoo Ball from Osprey Games. I got that package of Osprey Games, so I want to share more of those with you. So I think I'm going to do Zoo Ball tomorrow. Anyway, on Thursdays, it's going to be role-playing Thursdays. So funny enough, there was not a single role-playing game news piece at all today. Wah, wah. Then on Wednesday, it's War Game Wednesdays. And as I mentioned, if you saw the show yesterday, I'm not going to do like real heavy grognard war games. So I don't want people to say, well, I'm not watching on Wednesdays because I don't like war games. Or I'm not watching on Thursdays because I don't like role-playing games. Mondays is going to be kind of a free-for-all. And I think Mondays will be a lot of focus on saving you money on games. So I might call that kind of like money-saving Mondays. And then Tuesday, maybe classic stuff. Maybe things that have been out for a while. Now, I'm not talking just super old games. I'm talking about games that are well worth your attention, but maybe they just aren't like the current hotness. You know how the cult of the new is? It's like everybody's got to get their hands on the newest thing out there, and you could have the greatest game ever that came out last year, and it's like, no, I new, it's all new. So I want to share some love for deserving games with that. Anyway, I was going to say, because it's Role-Playing Thursday, I had originally planned on talking a little bit about, before I get into the reviews, talking a little bit about how to get involved in role-playing games. And I was going to go a little more detailed than I am now, but because of the audio issue and just everything's kind of just thrown me. I hate when things go wrong. I hate when I get everything planned out and I'm all good and I'm like, okay, hey, no technical glitches today. No technical glitches. It's like, what? No audio? Thankfully, I know what the issue is going to be, so I can nip that in the bud for tomorrow. But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about getting into role-playing. And I know there are people out there who, you know, they're younger, they're older, all different ages, who the thought of playing a role-playing game is appealing, but they're kind of scared off by it. And the first thing I always tell people is and I have nothing against these shows. Shows like Critical Role and Acquisitions Inc. and this just glut of shows out there now, these streams out there showing people playing role-playing games live. Don't use that as your reference point. Just don't. I gotta be honest, if I'd ever run a game, and I've been running role-playing games for 37 years. If I ever ran a game where, as the game master, dungeon master, keeper, whatever you want to call it, and I had myself set away from the table, I'd gotten thrown out of somebody's house. I find it just so funny how they have the game master like off, like he's the host of a game show or something like that. Anyway, don't use that as your basis for how you want to play role-playing games. Just don't. The way these are set up, these shows are set up, they're set up to be entertaining. They're not necessarily set up to be good points of reference for role-playing games. So if you're someone who's older and you're looking to kind of introduce role-playing games to your friends or people who may not be gamers, who may be sort of like, but I don't want to be a wizard, or what, Star Wars role-playing, that's, I don't know. But you think you kind of have them on the fence where maybe you could get them involved. I recommend picking up Fiasco from Bully Pulpit Games. It's a one-shot, so whenever you get together with the people you're playing with, it's always going to be a one-shot. There's all these different playbooks, and they tend to be a bit, I guess I'll say mature. I don't mean like mature content, but there's just a vast variety of sorts of playbooks, scenarios, stories that you create in that game. So I can't recommend that highly enough for people who are, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, older than that, who would kind of get a kick out of maybe trying out role-playing games just once before, they're too old to bother. Definitely give Fiasco a shot. So anyway, as Thursdays roll around, I am going to have some pretty universal tips. I don't want to say tricks. Trick sounds weird to me. It's a trick. I tricked you. But I am going to have some universal tips for better experiences with your role-playing sessions, because one thing I've always looked at is making each game session as memorable as possible. And according to the people I've run games with and for over the years, I've done a pretty good job of that. So anyway, enough of me rambling on. Like I said, I was going to kind of throw out some bullet points earlier about a bunch of this stuff, and this audio thing just messed everything up. But at least technically it looks like everything's going fine so far. I don't know. I will tell you one thing that was kind of throwing me off is when I would come back to live video from a video, there was kind of like this archiving going on. I'm sure people noticed it, maybe didn't make a big deal out of it. To me, it was like, what is going on here? So if, for an example, I'm doing a news piece and then I cut to that video and then I'd come back, the video of myself would kind of be like a couple of seconds or a second or so of what I was doing before that video cut. So I'm hoping I've been able to get rid of that. I don't know. I won't know until I see the finished stream on either Twitch or YouTube. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on to some reviews here. So I have Xanathar's Guide to Everything. And this came out, off the top of my head, I'm going to say November 17th. And last I heard, which is only a few days ago, hang on, let me have a little Johnny Walker Blue here. Today it's Diet A&W. Changed up a little bit. I'm a Diet Pepsi drinker, but it hasn't been on sale anywhere around me, so I had been drinking Diet Coke. Anyway, so as my understanding goes, Xanathar's Guide to Everything is the #1 selling item in your friendly local game stores at the moment. So, and that was a couple of days ago I had heard about that, and you figured this came out on November 17th. So it's been out for a while, so for it to be the #1 selling item, that says something. For one, it says Wizards of the Coast doesn't release enough stuff for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Just my opinion. I don't want them to flood the market with tons of 5e stuff. But I'd like to see them release things on a little more regular schedule. So anyway, so Xanathar's Guide to Everything is not necessarily a critical addition to your 5e collection. And the reason behind this is everything in here, and I'm not going to flip through like I did the other day, but everything in here is pretty optional. You don't necessarily have to add these into the game. One thing that is nice is this is the first supplement that came out that has some mechanical changes to the rules. So I did find that interesting, and I do like the fact that they've done that at Wizards. But I can't say that you've got to have this. That doesn't mean this is bad. I just want to point out who it's going to appeal to. So as we go through, we've got some character options. This is probably what most people, in my estimation, are going to be looking to pick this up for. There's a few key items in this book, and one is going to be the character classes. And a lot of the more in-depth aspects to them. I mean, for an example, with the Bard, there's embarrassment. Oops. There's even an embarrassment table. I'm one of these kind of GMs who is not huge on random tables. I understand their purpose. I get it. But once again, I have to point out that I come from a background of mainly running horror role-playing game, so Call of Cthulhu, and random stuff in a horror game just doesn't work. It just doesn't cut it. Then again, as I've mentioned before, a horror role-playing game, you're going to have a whole lot more railroading of the players involved in it, which some people don't dig. But, you know, it's a horror game. It's a horror story. And I know there are some games out there that are, oh, well, you know, all the players together, we make up the story and things like that. For a horror game, and yes, there are horror games out there like that, for the most part, they don't work. They do not work. There's one named after H.P. Lovecraft. I'm not going to give you the exact name. I did a written review of it on thegaminggang.com. Hated it. Just disliked it intensely for a multitude of reasons. Not least of which the game just isn't good. Anyway, back to Xanathar's Guide to Everything. So we've got the Cavalier, the Samurai. We've got monks. Goes into a lot of detail for the Warlock, which is kind of cool. The Paladin. Rangers. So we're looking at a good portion of the early part of the book is devoted to the different character classes. There you go. There's the Warlock. Another thing that's kind of cool in here is some more common magic items that I thought was kind of neat. This is your life. So then we've got a lot more background options for a little backstory for your characters. Different life events, so on and so forth. There are 15 new feats that are included. That is probably going to be another selling point to Xanathar's Guide to Everything, are the additional feats. Now, there are plenty of, I guess maybe I shouldn't say plenty, but there are more third-party 5e supplements and adventures that are hitting. This past year has really seen an increase. So, of course, those have new feats and things like that. Then we've got some Dungeon Master tools, which, of course, for a player, you're not going to be taking a peek at this. I would hope you wouldn't. I'm sure there are a lot of players out there who, oh, hey, I'm going to run this this adventure, this pre-published adventure. I'm going to do it in a couple of weeks. There's going to be somebody out there going, oh, yeah, okay, all right. I'm going to go get it on PDF so I can read ahead, find out. There are people out there like that, trust me. They are out there. To me, that would stink. I mean, that's just ruining the whole experience of a role-playing game. Anyway, so we've got the Dungeon Master tools. I mean, they're cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. It wasn't anything that I particularly thought were crucial. Although there is right here, this is one thing that I thought was interesting. Area of effect on a grid. I am the first person to tell you that I don't really care for role-playing with miniatures. And I love miniatures, so don't get me wrong, and I like miniatures games. To me, it's more a distraction than anything else. And I am real big on the storytelling aspect of a role-playing game, not necessarily on the dice rolling. And old joke, used to say it all the time. If you ever listen to the old podcast that Elliot Miller, who is now voiceofe.com, and I did for a couple of years, we always threw out the joke about, do you really need grappling rules? I mean, do you really need to have your hand-to-hand combat that detailed in a fantasy game where you have grappling rules? But I thought this was kind of cool because the area of effect, especially for people who are writing up there, doing their little maps as they explore on the hex paper, or not hex paper, graph paper. Hex paper are for wilderness maps. Duh. What's wrong with you, Jeff? Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. Kind of explains it a bit better. There is a section on encounter building, which I thought was kind of neat. Bunch of random encounter stuff. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. If you dig tables and stuff, you will dig this. Me, Traps Revisited. It's just more traps that your dungeon master, I almost said GM, haha, it's DM, can use. There are some tips on how to design some more complex traps. Oh gosh, what was it? Is it somebody out there is gonna correct me on this? Nick Indy asked, do I support net neutrality? Yes. My God, yes. But can't really. This isn't really a show like politically motivated, but because I know a lot of my wargaming friends would probably tune out. Sorry. I'm a liberal. What can I tell you? Diehard Democrat. Anyway, yes, Nick Indy, I do support net neutrality. Okay, so moving right along through some of this stuff. Hey, thanks for tossing that out there in chat. I would think almost everybody should be supporting net neutrality unless they work for some big ISP, some big corporation, something like that. Okay, so anyway, awarding magic items, and this is where I'm talking about where we get into some cool common magic items. So, because a lot of times it's sort of, every time you turn around, it's like, wow, you get that whole power creep jumping into an RPG. It's like, well, you know, I've got this +7 sword that does this, and it does this, and it does this, and it makes coffee. And then, of course, you got to have something better than that for them to struggle to try to get in some adventure. So I always like kind of the fairly common stuff, and there is a bunch of info about that. So I thought that was kind of cool. I did like that. Then we got a section of spells. There are some new spells. Not a ton, but there are some pretty interesting new spells in here. All right, I think that was the last section. Yeah, and then we move into the appendixes. And shared campaigns, character creation. Then it finishes up with a whole mess of non-human names, which I always laugh. And I've mentioned this before, that you'll find a lot of people who you're rolling up a character in a game and everything goes smoothly, and then you get to the point, okay, let's give the character a name, and everybody around the table is just like, So, that is Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Giving it a numerical score, which is what I normally do on thegaminggang.com with my written reviews. I like it. I mentioned before, I like it. There's some pretty cool information in there. I think the main things people are going to look at this for are going to be the more details about the character classes, as well as the spells and the feats. Some of the charts and stuff like that are in there, some of the various different charts. Like I said, a lot of people really dig random charts. I'm not necessarily so huge on them, so that it didn't jump out as like that's a buying point for me. Although I do know that there are plenty of people out there who purchase PDFs that are all just simply charts, random charts for stuff. So I like it. I think it's a very nicely produced book. I don't think it's necessarily critical for every player of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons to pick up. Your GM should probably grab it. And memory serves me correctly, the MSRP on this is $34.99. I have seen it for less than $30. through various online retailers. I always recommend, if you got a cool, friendly local gaming store, support them. If you don't have a local gaming store, or as I talked about last week, your gaming store really doesn't deserve your business, by all means, save yourself a little money online. It's completely up to you. However you want to buy. I got no dog in the fight. So I would give Xanathar's Guide to Everything about an 8.2. Maybe bump it up a little higher for folks who really want some more new mechanical tweaks to Dungeons and Dragons. Maybe bump it down a little bit for players, because there isn't a whole lot of info in here that players are going to really be digging into. Although, to be very honest with you, most supplements and so forth that come out for role-playing games really aren't made for the player. They really aren't. They're for the game master. So, there you go. I liked it. Very cool. Very cool. I'll tell you one thing. Not that I have it actually handy here, but I did find Tomb of Annihilation, which was the last campaign that came out for D&D. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was great. If you want to find out what I thought about that, go check out the review on gaminggang.com. Okay, so we've got my other review is Starfinder from Paizo Publishing. And let me grab a quick sip here. Thank you. It did come out back at Gen Con. And it's sort of funny. Well, I guess it's not real funny for convention attendees. But if you've been to Gen Con, which happens to be really the big convention that Paizo releases new stuff for. I'm not saying that Paizo doesn't go to other cons. It's just a lot of companies, Gen Con is where their big releases come out. So if you've ever been to Gen Con, you know when you go in to the exhibit hall that Paizo's right up front towards the oh gosh, well, I don't know what direction it would be, but kind of towards the entrance, towards the first entrance you come into if you're coming in from outside. If you're coming from the direction of, what is it, Indiana Street, something like that. So anyway, so never fail, first day of the con, the exhibit hall isn't open yet, there's always a big line. And you know right away that big line is going to be for Paizo, because of the location where that line always is. Now I'm telling you, there's other lines too that people are in to go grab stuff that's coming out at Gen Con, but I always know where the Paizo line is. So anyway, so Starfinder's their big release this year. And exhibit hall opens up, we're there, we're covering the show, as the media, as press, whatever you want to consider it. And just jam-packed, just a huge line for Paizo. So the next day, Elliot, for his website, he had an interview set up with Paizo. I don't talk to Paizo all that much. I don't have anything against Paizo, but for whatever reason, Paizo and I have never gotten on board where I'm doing reviews and stuff for him. I don't know why. I've talked to Eric Mona a few times. I've interviewed him a couple of times. Super nice. It's just one of those things, and it's not something where it's like, oh my gosh, damn you, Paizo, you gotta give me stuff. No, it's just whatever. But I'm always happy to, share some news and stuff like that. And Elliot Miller actually gave me this for Christmas because he knew I really wanted to take a peek at it. Anyway, so long story short, long story shorter, Paizo unleashes Starfinder on that Thursday, and it's gone. It's completely sold out. And I guess they had printed up as many of these, or I should say, okay, let me rephrase that. Paizo had printed more copies of this game book, than anything they had ever published before. And they still sold out. And here was the thing where I said, well, it was kind of funny that they sold out that quick, and it was cool that they sold out that quick. What wasn't cool is there were people who, of course, had purchased their daily badges for Gen Con. So you had folks who had the Friday, Saturday, Sunday badges. Sunday's a big family day at Gen Con. So, of course, when they got there, there was no Starfinder to be found. And when I say there was no Starfinder, we're talking the core book was gone. Almost everything was gone. I think the only thing that they still had on Friday morning was the Starship tiles. They only had a few of those. So, anyway, I like Paizo. I think their stuff is really cool. I appreciate the fact that they release a good number of products. I think it's very cool how they'll have like the 6-part story arc campaigns, and as those adventures come out, of course, they've got their organized play at the various different game stores and comic shops, just like Wizards of the Coast does. You know, I'm not picking sides between the two of these companies. I think they're both fine. I don't have issues with them. Anyway, but getting into Starfinder, a few things I want to point out. Number one, this is a huge book. This is a big, big book. It does carry an MSRP of $60. And once again, I am not going to go through every page of this book. I'm just going to kind of touch on some highlights. So the reality of Starfinder, it's Pathfinder in space, right? So if you think about it, you know, you got your goblins, your orcs, your dwarves, your elves, you know, so on and so forth. Okay, well, so it's in a space setting. And some people would probably think, well, yeah, you know, big deal. All they're going to do is port stuff over. Actually, I was really impressed in all the work that went into this, because Paizo, the folks at Paizo could have been really lazy. They could have just, what was the word I was going to use? I guess I better not. Sorry, YouTube. Okay, so they could have half-assed it, right? But they didn't. They invested loads and loads of effort into this. And I want to point out, too, that some of that credit also has to go to the players. Because one thing that Paizo is famous for is listening to their customers, listening to their fans, and bringing their fans into the process of playtesting a lot of stuff. What I kind of find, and I'll be the first to admit, I am not super familiar with Pathfinder. And the reason behind that is there's just so much out there for Pathfinder. Even I, as someone who's been gaming for about 40 years, almost 40 years now, I'm a little intimidated. I know, it's like, you're intimidated? I am, because it's okay, outside of the core book, it's like, where do you go from there, right? Because there's just so much stuff out there. Anyway, Starfinder is kind of like the next edition of Pathfinder, because there are some changes that I noticed, even not being overly familiar with Pathfinder, and there are some tweaks to kind of the core, mechanics of Pathfinder. Now, of course, once again, it's still, you're rolling the die 20, so it's not as if that's all changed. But if we take a peek, come on, let's see if I can get rid of some of this glare. I mean, the artwork throughout this is phenomenal. And there are a good number of character classes. And as far as the races too, you would think, okay, well, Paizo just took the easy way out. They're doing, okay, well, instead of elves, it's just space elves. I don't know. Well, no, I guess Games Workshop couldn't get upset about that because they call them the Eldar. So, but when I was taking a peek through, I thought, hey, they actually put some work into creating different races and things like that. It's not just space dwarf, space elf, space orc. For the most part throughout the book, too, I find that... see, I like a lot of art. I like good art in my RPG books, but I don't want to be overwhelmed with art. You know what I mean. Where you feel like, wow, I bought this so I could find... so I could have a good adventure, I could have new ideas for running games for my friends and so on and so forth. Only to turn around that it's like just all art or fluff and very little actual material. There are portions where there's loads of art in this core book, but it never gets to the point where I feel that they're getting cheated. So here we go. Going through some of these classes. Crusader Chaplain, Empath, Star Shaman, Xeno Druid. So, okay. Alright, so we got a lot of this stuff in here. A thief. What, he's not a space thief? What's going on there? What? Huh? How come he's not a space thief? But as far as, like, core rules, if I remember correctly, from what I've seen, Starfinder does have more starting classes than I seem to recall in Pathfinder. And of course, for an example, we've got Soldier, then it's going to go through some of their key abilities, skills. Then you get a few pages of information about that class. And we've got, for an example, for the Soldier, you got Bodyguard, Close Combatant, Sniper, and Spell Soldier. Okay, so then we move into, from the classes, we go to skills. Once again, pretty cool artwork. There is a lot of cool parts about this book that really pull you into. I really would like to know more about the world of Starfinder after reading through this. But it's also not something where they just go hog wild with the setting itself. You've got all your rules. Okay, so we were on skills there. Then we get the feats. Then we got equipment. I found the equipment section to be a little too in-depth. See, look at how many pages I'm going through for equipment. Which I get it. I know everybody wants the gear and stuff like that, but see, I'm still going through equipment. Okay. One thing to keep in mind, too, a big part of any sort of science fiction role-playing game that involves traveling the stars are, of course, going to be starships. And this could be a little tricky for some established Pathfinder players out there who get into Starfinder. The rules for starship combat, I wouldn't say that they're overly complex, but I will say that it takes a little bit of wrapping your head around. And one of the main things is, because now you have facing, so you've got various facing. Usually in a role-playing game, you don't necessarily have like detailed rules about facing. Oh yeah, sure, okay, backstabbing, things like that, right. But you want to keep in mind that with the starships, with starship combat, you're going to start throwing in a whole batch of new rules that you're going to have to kind of wrap your head around. They're not terrible. I mean, they're not extremely difficult. I tell people all the time that I am not necessarily the biggest stickler on mechanics. I would prefer to run a role-playing game where everybody's having a good time. Yeah, we're rolling dice and everything like that, sure. But I don't get overly critical or overly excited over game mechanics, because I'm one of these people who, if I don't care for something, I just take it out and kind of kit bash my own thing or something from another game that I prefer. So I have to apologize. I'm not gonna go sit there and go, okay, well, this is kind of like Pathfinder 1.5, and I'll explain why. It's not my bag. Okay, so we've got space travel. Now we start getting into some more stuff towards where it gives you more of a flavor for the game. So here's some of the starships. Like I said, there's all these different races that, they're brand new. As you can see by their ship styles, all very different. I could have swore that there's already a Starship Builder supplement. Maybe it's a PDF. Maybe it's from a third-party company. But I could have swore I thought there was one out there on Drive-Thru-RPG. All right, so let me get to here, magic and spells. This is probably where some people are going to be a little disappointed, because although there is magic, don't get me wrong, they've kind of tweaked it a bit, and they've taken a lot of what I guess I would consider to be kind of power creep from the spells out. So now you're not going to have as powerful spells as you had in the past. I don't know if this is just a decision that was made for this game itself, or if that's going to be something going forward if and when Paizo decides they want to do a new edition of Pathfinder. So I had heard from a couple of people who have played. I have not run this. I mean, I'm just basically giving you a review of what I think of the book on a whole. Like I said, kind of higher level, not jumping too deep. But I had heard from a couple of people who had played Starfinder and had played Pathfinder too, that they were bummed about the magic. I don't know. I mean, come on. But you got other stuff. Come on, it's science fiction. You don't have nukes in Pathfinder. How powerful do you need the magic to be? Okay, so this whole section here is all about magic and spells. Then we got a portion about game mastering. And as usual in most fantasy role-playing, well, okay, so this is space fantasy. Role-playing games, we start getting into a bunch of the tables, a bunch of the randomized tables. I'm not a huge fan, as I keep saying. But there is a lot of cool info about like different star systems and environments and so on and so forth. Yeah, traps. Gotta have traps, man. Come on. Okay. And what I thought was one of the coolest parts is the settings section. It's not hugely detailed. See, now we start getting into areas of this book where now the artwork is kind of overshadowing the amount of information that's being provided, which is okay. I mean, it's all right. It's not terrible. It's not, what is it? What was it? Under the Dancing Moon or something like that, role-playing game that I had reviewed that was just garbage. That there was no game to the game. It was all a lot of photography and stuff like that. It was like 1/4 of a cooked game. So anyway, I thought the different systems in that, pretty cool. But I really wanted to find out more about this, going beyond just, oh my god, now off the top of my head, I can't remember the home world, the world Pathfinder's on. Anyway. So, then we've got some Pathfinder Legacy info to pretty much complete the book. Here we go. Now we got some stuff. Some other. Yeah, I don't see the spaceship creator. So maybe that was from a third party company. I know I think the bestiary may have come out, or it might be right on the horizon. I had posted a news piece about that not too long ago. But as someone who's just gone through the book and not run a game of Starfinder, I found it to be pretty interesting. Mechanically, I like some of the little tweaks. I'm not concerned about them sitting there and kind of depowering some of the magic. That doesn't bother me. That's okay, because to me it's more science fiction than fantasy. I mean, you can have both, but you can make up for whatever insane power that you had magically with just equipment, gear, science fiction gear, stuff like that. I also think Starfinder is a really cool jumping on point for people to Paizo, period. Because as I had mentioned before, I found Pathfinder to be intimidating to get into, because it was, where do I go from here? And it's interesting when people want to pick up a new system to play, sometimes there's a couple of things going on. Number one is there enough material out there? Pre-published adventures, things like that, because not everyone is capable of, concocting really cool, exciting adventures, memorable adventures. That's what I can't stress it enough when I talk about RPGs. Make them memorable. Just because somebody had a good time and, oh yeah, hey, I rolled that natural 20 and we won that fight. 6 months from now, they're not going to remember that. That is not going to be a big sticking point in their head. I have people that I've run role-playing games for 30 years ago who can still talk about the details of that adventure or that campaign or whatever. So to me, memorable is important. So when you're looking to get into a new system, you want to have a little bit of material out there. But then on the other hand, if there's just tons of stuff out there, you don't know where to start. So I think Starfinder is a great way for people to introduce themselves into Paizo products if they haven't before. I really like Starfinder. I could see myself running the game, which is saying something about a system, because I'm pretty set in my ways of how I like my role-playing games and what I like from them. But I honestly could see busting out Starfinder and playing it. I don't really have any complaints about it. Somebody who is much more familiar with Pathfinder can probably nitpick a lot of stuff that they wouldn't like. Overall, I think it's really, really pretty impressive. I think folks at Paizo should be very, very proud of themselves. They put out a really cool book, and it's a lot better than I was expecting. Not that I had low expectations. I just was very impressed by how they really took this setting and ran with it, as opposed to just, we'll just port this stuff over. It's easy. We'll save time, make more money. No, they put together a really, really nice book. Numerically, I would score Starfinder's core rule book a 9 out of 10. So I think it's that good. I don't think it's perfect. There's a couple things I would tweak myself, but that's just me. But I do think it is an excellent book. So, once again, as I mentioned before, Starfinder is available in stores. I don't think there's a PDF. I don't think there's a PDF of this. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Anyway, it does carry an MSRP of $60. I will mention one last thing about that book. They had an issue with one of the first print runs with some binding problems that unfortunately the books were kind of falling apart. That should be all taken care of. So if you happen to be at your local game store and you're picking up a copy, you shouldn't have to worry about any problems with binding. But if you did, Paizo was taking care of people. And they weren't making you jump through hoops to make sure that you got a properly bound book. Anyway, it does carry an MSRP of $60. And pretty cool. So both RPG products I like. I think Starfinder, and once again, I am not choosing sides between Paizo and Wizards of the Coast. And I know there are people out there who think, oh, Pathfinder sucks. D&D sucks. Dungeons and Dragons is crap. Pathfinder's crap. I'll tell you the first thing. Number one, all RPGs are cool. 99% of RPGs are cool. And 99% of RPGs are crap. There's no perfect RPG out there. There's always something that you want to change, make a little bit different, depending on the kind of player you are, or kind of game master you are. Anyway, but I was going to say, I'm pretty happy to see both of these products from two different companies that are competitors. They won't say they're competitors. They're competitors. Very, very worthwhile and very much worth the purchase price. Anyway, that is all the time I've got for today. This show has run awfully long, and like I told you, that audio issue today just discombobulated me. I'm sitting here going, man, these reviews are just terrible. Because I didn't have my bullet points and stuff. Anyway, hopefully everything is ironed out for tomorrow's show. It is the end of the week. It'll be Friday. So I'm looking forward to that. A little TGIF coming up. Give me a little break so you don't have to watch my mug on in front of the camera. Anyway, I do want to point out that be sure to follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube. Definitely appreciate that. Share the show, even though this isn't a great example of one so far. Share the show with your friends, see if they want to check it out too. And by all means, when you're not watching The Daily Dope, swing over to thegaminggang.com for the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Come on, you know the drill by now. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.